Okay, now back to your piece. It quotes Nomiki Konst. So you wrote this piece the way journalists do, like as if you were a dispassionate observer. There are two different views.
Right.
Nomiki is one and Markos is the other. But do you mind if I ask, how do you actually feel?
I mean, so my take would be, Markos is Markos. Like, he is at once a very pragmatic guy who wants to push forward the party in general, and he's very partisan by his own description. So on the one hand, he'll say, I want what's best for the party. In the same breath, then he'll attack Bernie bros and kind of dig up old wounds. And I said that to him during our interview. I said, isn't dredging up even the epithet Bernie bros, isn't that fighting the old fights? And he says, well, they're still fighting those fights today. So if they're still fighting them, I'm going to still fight them. So Markos is a very interesting figure because, he's a pragmatist, but he cut his teeth in the blog wars of the aughts. And so, those were knife fights. Those were days when people just said exactly what they felt. He's not going to hold back, and you do have to admire that what you see is what you're going to get about him.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Markos would know from trying to pass immigration, comprehensive immigration, is that you need to be able to have a broad coalition to get anything done. And to go back to the baseball analogy, at some point you're talking about our team versus their team, but where do you draw the line? Because if our team is only people who at every instant think exactly like you, it's just not going to be a big enough team to win.
Right. And so I think he's constantly kind of, has a foot in both of those worlds. He wants the biggest team possible, but he also can be pretty brutal to people that could be part of that team. But he feels that I think being brutal to them is tough love, and will get them to wake up. Because his argument is that he's like, I don't hate all Sanders supporters. Most of the money that we've raised for Ossoff and Thompson and Quist came from Sanders supporters through Kos. He's attacking the people who won't stop fighting the last primary. My argument would be, by attacking them, you're also doing the thing that you're trying to stop. I think they've done extraordinary work since the election. I mean, since the inauguration, and actually since the election and some other special elections. John Lewis and them basically together forced the Democrats into the Georgia election. On that alone, they deserve a lot of credit. Raising $1 million plus in one House election is quite a feat.
A number of comments are focusing on the relationship of progressive groups like Daily Kos, like the Young Turks, with the establishment, the Democratic Party.
Right, and it's a push-pull. It's a love-hate. Kos, his take is, he says, I think the party is broken and irrelevant. I don't care what the party does. I think it's a bunch of losers and corporate stooges, and so I don't think that I can change them, so I'm going to just build my own thing, and we're going to be over here doing our own thing. Whereas some other groups, like Our Revolution and Sanders, ran Keith Ellison to try to take over the DNC and reform it from the inside. And I think both are completely understandable strategies, but those are kind of like the twin ways that they're interacting with the DNC and the DCCC. DCCC being the House arm for that runs House candidates. They notice, they do react. How much they react is as little as possible. You have to push them every inch, but they certainly noticed what happened in Kansas with Thompson. They noticed the criticism that came afterwards, and I think you're going to see them behave differently when it comes to Montana, for instance. So they might have been inclined to stay out of Montana. In fact, they had stayed out of it, and they were telling me that they were inclined to stay out of it. But I bet you that that's not going to last. That election's May 25th. Watch the National Party. These are open questions. We'll see what they do. But my guess is that they felt enough pain, that's what they respond to, pain, that they'll jump in.
Marcela Estrada said, we will learn from this, yes, but in the process people will lose their rights, housing,
Yes.
family members.